The Dominion Council chamber hummed with the usual self-satisfied energy of an empire that had never known defeat. Fleet Commander Varath tapped his claws against the polished stone table, waiting for the delegates to stop their preening long enough to actually listen. "The third planet," he began, projecting the holographic display with a flick of his wrist, "is designated as Terra, or as the locals call it, Earth." Senator Quillix leaned forward, her triple eyes gleaming with barely concealed greed. "Resources. Abundant." Vorith couldn't help the smirk that crossed his mandibles. "Water covers 70% of the surface. Metals in quantities we haven't seen since the Kelvar cluster. Rare elements scattered across every continent. And the atmosphere. Perfectly balanced oxygen and nitrogen. We could harvest this world for 3 generations and barely scratch the surface." The chamber erupted in excited chittering. Chancellor Drex raised one massive hand for silence, his four-fingered grip tight around his ceremonial staff. "Defense capabilities." Vorith pulled up the scans, and here's where it got truly amusing. "Primitive. Chemical propulsion for their spacecraft. Nuclear weapons. Yes, but nothing we haven't shielded against for the past 2 centuries. Their most advanced fighters barely break atmospheric speeds we consider pedestrian. Population?" This from Trade Minister Vex, already calculating profit margins. 7 billion. Give or take. Vorith waved dismissively. "Divided into hundreds of competing factions. They call them nations. They actually war amongst themselves over invisible lines drawn on maps." The laughter that followed was predictable. "How delightfully backward." "Recommendation?" Chancellor Drex asked, though his tone suggested he'd already decided. "Standard acquisition protocol," Vorath replied smoothly. "We position the harvest fleet in orbit, deliver the compliance demand. They surrender within 48 hours. We begin extraction operations, relocate the population to designated zones. Everyone profits. 3 months, maybe 4, and we move on to the next target." It had worked on 63 worlds. Why would this one be different? "Make it happen," Drex commanded. And just like that, Earth's fate was sealed, or so they thought. The first contact occurred on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Vorath brought 300 vessels, a fraction of the Dominion's military strength, but more than sufficient to intimidate a pre-interstellar civilization. The transmission went out in 47 languages, translated by their linguistic processors. Professional. Efficient. Terrifying. "People of Earth. The Galactic Dominion now claims sovereign authority over your world and its resources. You will cease all military operations immediately. You will prepare for supervised relocation to preserve your species during the extraction process. You have 48 hours to transmit your unconditional surrender to this fleet. Resistance will be considered an act of aggression and met with appropriate force. Compliance will be rewarded with survival. This is your only warning." Vorith settled back in his command throne, waiting for the inevitable panic, the desperate pleas, the political infighting as various Earth factions blamed each other for attracting alien attention. Instead, after 6 hours of silence, a single transmission came back. The voice was female, calm, speaking in what their database identified as English. "This is President Catherine Vale of the United Nations Security Council. We acknowledge receipt of your message. We respectfully decline your offer." Vorith blinked. All 4 eyes. "Respectfully decline." This tactical officer, a young lieutenant named Crix, looked equally confused. "Commander, they must not understand. Should we resend with clearer language?" "They understood perfectly," Vorith muttered, replaying the transmission. That tone, that infuriating calm. "Send a follow-up. Explain the consequences of non-compliance." The second message emphasized the firepower currently orbiting their planet, the technological superiority, the complete and total futility of resistance. Catherine Vale's response came faster this time. "Commander Vorath, we understand perfectly. 300 ships, plasma weapons, shield technology, faster than light capability. Very impressive. Here's what you apparently don't understand. This is our home. You're not welcome here. Leave peacefully, and we'll consider this an unfortunate misunderstanding. Stay, and you'll discover why that's a poor decision." The audacity was stunning. Actually, Senator Quillix's hologram flickered into existence beside his command chair. "Commander, the Council is monitoring this situation. Why haven't they surrendered?" "They appear to be delusional," the Roth said carefully. "I'm working on alternative persuasion methods. Work faster. Every hour we delay costs the Dominion considerable resources." The hologram vanished. Vorath's claws drummed faster against his armrest. Fine. They wanted a demonstration. He'd give them one. Target their satellite network, he ordered. Disable their communications infrastructure. Let's see how defiant they feel when they can't coordinate. The weapons officer hesitated. Just for a moment. Sir, that's 3,000 individual targets across orbital patterns. Then you'd better start now. The plasma cannons hummed to life, precision targeting systems locking onto every satellite, every space station, every piece of orbital debris larger than a chair. It should have been a massacre, except, sir. The weapons officer's voice cracked with something that might have been panic. They're moving. All of them. Synchronized evasive patterns. I've never seen civilian satellites maneuver like this. Vorath watched the tactical display as Earth's entire orbital infrastructure performed a coordinated dance, evading every single shot with movements that suggested either the luckiest coincidence in galactic history. They knew, he whispered. They knew exactly when we'd fire. The communication channel crackled. That same calm voice. Commander, that was rude. We're going to let it slide because you're new here and don't know the rules yet. But here's a free lesson. We've been watching you since you entered our solar system. We know every weapon placement on every ship. We've calculated your firing patterns, your energy signatures and your tactical doctrine. You're predictable. We're not. Crix pulled up a new scan. Commander, they're launching something. Hundreds of somethings. Small craft chemical propulsion like we expected, but the trajectories are wrong. Wrong how? They're not heading for us, they're spreading out across the orbital plane, forming a perimeter. Vorath magnified the image. Tiny fighters, laughably primitive by Dominion standards, taking up defensive positions. He could destroy them all with a single frigate, except something nagged at him, that confidence. That tone. Scan those fighters, he ordered. Full spectrum analysis. The results made his blood run cold. Commander, the science officer reported quietly, those aren't just fighters. Each one is broadcasting false signatures, sensor ghosts, thermal decoys. Our targeting systems are reading 12,000 contacts when there's actually maybe 800 real craft. So we adjust for the interference and fire anyway. Sir, the interference is adaptive. It's learning our scanning frequencies and adjusting in real time. Even if we compensate, by the time we lock on, they'll have shifted patterns again. A low-tech civilization shouldn't have this kind of electronic warfare capability. They shouldn't have any of this. Catherine Vale's voice returned, and now Vorath detected something new in her tone. Amusement. Commander, we're going to make this simple for you. You came here thinking we're primitives playing with rocks and sticks. That's fair. We haven't exactly advertised our capabilities. But here's the thing about humanity. We're paranoid. We've spent 70 years preparing for this exact scenario. Every sci-fi novel, every alien invasion movie, every worst-case scenario. We planned for all of it. Vorath felt something he hadn't experienced in 20 years of conquest. Uncertainty. You want our resources, Vela continued. You'll have to take them. And before you make that decision, ask yourself something. If we're this prepared for your arrival, what else might we have ready? The challenge hung in the void between worlds. Chancellor Drex's hologram reappeared, fury radiating from every gesture. Commander Vorath, the Council demands action. You will demonstrate Dominion's superiority immediately. Vorath's mandibles clicked together, a nervous habit from his youth. Chancellor, I recommend we reassess. Reassess. The hologram grew larger, more threatening. You have 300 warships against a species that hasn't left its own solar system. There is nothing to reassess. Destroy one of their cities, show them the price of defiance. Every instinct screamed at Vorath to object, but discipline won out. Yes, Chancellor. He selected a target at random. Large coastal city, major population center. The kind of strike that broke spirits and ended rebellions before they started. Fire. The plasma beam lanced down through Earth's atmosphere. A pillar of destruction that should have vaporized everything in a 50-kilometer radius. Should have. Instead, 3 seconds before impact, the beams scattered across an energy barrier that hadn't existed during any of their preliminary scans. The plasma dispersed harmlessly into the upper atmosphere, creating a light show that probably looked spectacular from the ground. Shields, Crix shouted unnecessarily. They have planetary shields. That's impossible. Vorath muttered. But the evidence glowed right there on the tactical display. The energy requirements alone, where are they getting that kind of power? The answer came in the form of new contacts appearing on their scans. 30 massive facilities spread across Earth's continents, all coming online simultaneously. Fusion reactors, their signatures suggested. But the output levels were astronomical. They've been building these, the science officer said slowly, for decades. Underground, shielded from orbital detection. Commander, this wasn't paranoia. This was a plan. Catherine Vale's transmission took on a harder edge. Last chance, Commander. Take your fleet and leave. Tell your council that Earth is not interested in joining their empire. We'll even let you keep your dignity. But if you fire on our planet again, if you threaten our people one more time, we stop being polite. Polite? Vorith couldn't help the laugh that escaped. You call this polite? Commander, you have no idea what impolite looks like. But keep pushing, and I'll be happy to demonstrate. This was insane. Impossible. They were supposed to be primitive, and yet, Vorith pulled up every scan, every data point, every piece of information they'd gathered. Chemical rockets. Yes, but with delta-V calculations that suggested incredible efficiency. Nuclear weapons, primitive, but in quantities that boggled the mind. 7 billion people fractured into competing nations, yet somehow coordinating a unified defense within hours of first contact. What kind of species spends generations preparing for a threat they've never encountered? What kind of species builds world-ending arsenals just in case? What kind of species hides fusion reactors under cities and calls it urban planning? The answers settled into Vorath's consciousness like a stone. The dangerous kind. Chancellor Drex was screaming something about honor and Dominion supremacy. But Vorath barely heard him. His attention was locked on the tactical display, watching those 800 fighters hold formation, watching the planetary shields shimmer across an entire world, watching a civilization that shouldn't have stood a chance demonstrate exactly why assumptions got fleets destroyed. Commander, Crix said quietly. Orders? Vorath looked at his 300 ships, at the pride of the Dominion fleet, and wondered if it would be enough. Then he looked at Earth, that blue marble covered in water and life, and 7 billion individuals who'd collectively decided that surrender wasn't in their vocabulary. Open a channel, he said finally, to Chancellor Drex. Commander Vorath. Drex's image blazed with righteous fury. You will commence the bombardment immediately or face charges of cowardice before the Council. Vorath met the Chancellor's gaze calmly. With respect, Chancellor, I recommend we withdraw and reassess our tactical approach. The silence that followed was profound. Then Drex spoke, each word sharp as a blade. You have 6 hours to break their defenses. Fail and I'll send someone who won't. The hologram vanished. Crix turned to him, all 4 eyes wide. Commander? Voratha looked back at Earth, at the planet that was supposed to be an easy conquest, at the humans who'd spent decades turning paranoia into preparation. 6 hours, he said quietly. Better make them count. 6 hours. Vorath had conquered star systems in less time. This should have been simple. Except nothing about Earth was simple. Status report, he demanded, pacing the command deck while his officers worked frantically at their stations. Their shield grid is holding at 98% efficiency. The tactical officer reported. We've tried concentrated fire, dispersed bombardment, even simultaneous strikes from multiple vectors. The shields adapt faster than we can adjust our targeting solutions. Their fighter screen? Vorath asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Still active, still generating false signatures. We're tracking somewhere between 800 and 15,000 contacts depending on which sensor array we trust. Sir, they're jamming us with technology that shouldn't exist. Vorath's claws clicked against the deck plating. 4 hours remaining. Chancellor Drex would make good on his threat, and whoever replaced him wouldn't waste time on reconnaissance. What about their military installations? Surely they have centralized command structures we can target. The intelligence officer, a veteran named Thex, manipulated the holographic display with practiced efficiency. That's the problem, Commander. There is no central command. Their military doctrine appears to be deliberately decentralized. Every nation maintains independent forces, every city has autonomous defense systems. Even their civilian infrastructure has built-in redundancy. That's madness, Vorath muttered. The inefficiency alone should cripple them. Should being the operative word, Thex replied dryly. Instead it means there's no single point of failure we can exploit. We'd have to neutralize hundreds of individual command centers simultaneously. A communication alert interrupted the discussion. Not from Earth, this time. From the outer system. Crix brought up the transmission. Commander, Patrol ship Relentless reports unusual activity near the fourth planet. Mars, the locals call it. What kind of activity? Human activity. Sir, they have bases there. Multiple installations, all going to active status. Vorath felt his stomach sink. Of course they did. How did we miss this during initial scans? The bases were dormant. Minimal energy signatures. We classified them as abandoned research outposts. Crix paused, reading new data. They're not abandoned, sir. They're launching something. The display updated. 200 missiles crewed by Dominion standards, but accelerating on trajectories that would bring them into engagement range within the hour. Nuclear? Vorath asked, already knowing it was worse. Kinetic, mostly. Solid slugs of refined metals accelerated to 0.3% light speed. Sir, at those velocities our shields might not— I'm aware of the physics, Lieutenant. Vorath cut him off. 0.3% of light speed meant each projectile carried energy equivalent to several fusion bombs. Simple. Effective. Terrifying. Catherine Vale's voice crackled across the communication channel. That same infuriating calm present. Commander, I see you found our Mars installations. Surprise. We've had a presence in our solar system for quite some time. Those missiles, consider them a polite suggestion that you leave. They'll arrive in 53 minutes. I'd recommend using that time wisely. You're bluffing, Vorath said, but even he could hear the uncertainty in his own voice. Those missiles can't penetrate our shields, can't they? Vela's tone shifted, just slightly. Less diplomatic, more dangerous. Commander, here's something you should know about humans. We've been killing each other with progressively more creative methods for thousands of years. We got very, very good at it. Then we stopped fighting each other long enough to ask, what if someone else shows up? What if we need all that creativity pointed outward instead? She paused, letting that sink in. You're looking at 70 years of weaponized paranoia. Commander? Every science fiction story about alien invasion, every nightmare scenario we could imagine, we built contingencies for it. Those missiles, that's just the opening move. Vorath cut the transmission. 3 hours and 40 minutes remaining. 53 minutes until the kinetic barrage arrived. Options. He snapped at his senior staff. We could attempt to intercept the missiles, Thack suggested. Deploy our fighters to engage before they reach effective range, and leave the fleet vulnerable to whatever else they're hiding? Vorath shook his head. No. They want us to split our forces. We could withdraw beyond Mars orbit, Crix offered quietly. Reassess from a safer distance. The Chancellor ordered results, not retreat. The Chancellor, Crix said even more quietly, is not the one about to be hit by 200 relativistic kill vehicles. Vorath's mandibles clicked together rapidly. A sign of stress his crew had learned to recognize. The young lieutenant had a point. A new alert. This one from Earth's surface. Commander. The communications officer looked pale, her scales shifting to fear colors. Mass launches detected. Planetary scale. Thousands of signatures lifting off from every continent. The tactical display lit up like a festival celebration. Missiles, fighters, orbital platforms, all rising from Earth's surface in a coordinated wave. Too many to count, too many to target. That's impossible, someone whispered. The fuel requirements alone, the logistics, but there they were. Thousands of contacts, all accelerating toward the Dominion fleet. Vorath pulled up the energy signatures, desperate for some weakness to exploit. What he found made him laugh. Actually laugh. A bitter, defeated sound. They're old, he said. Half of these missiles are decades old. Museum pieces. They've been storing them, maintaining them, keeping them ready just in case. Sir, that's insane. No, Lieutenant. That's human. Catherine Vale's transmission returned, but this time she wasn't alone. Multiple voices, different languages, all translated in real time by Earth's systems. Commander Vorath, this is General Park of the Pacific Alliance. Fleet Admiral Okai of the African Federation. Marshal Volkov of the Northern Collective. Premier Santos of the Southern Coalition. They went on. A dozen voices. 24, 50. Every nation, every alliance, every military force on Earth speaking with one message. Villala's voice cut through them all. Commander, meet humanity. We fight among ourselves constantly. We disagree on everything. Politics, religion, economics, who makes the best pizza. But you know what we agree on? Nobody takes our home. Nobody threatens our people. And nobody, absolutely nobody, tells us to surrender. The transmission shifted. Video feed. A massive chamber filled with representatives from every nation, thousands of people, all standing, all watching the same displays. Varath was watching. You wanted to know our capabilities, Vale continued. Fine. Every nuclear weapon we've ever built, still operational. Every military satellite, armed and targeted. Every submarine, every bomber, every soldier, ready to fight. You're not facing a military commander. You're facing a species that looked at the stars and decided that if someone came for us, we'd make them regret it. Varath watched the tactical display, watched those thousands of missiles climbing toward his fleet, watched the Martian kinetics closing from behind, watched Earth's shields shimmer defiantly below. 47 minutes until kinetic impact. 23 minutes until the Earth-launched wave arrived. Sir, Crix said softly, we need to make a decision. Varath looked at his 300 ships. Pride of the Dominion, conquerors of 63 worlds, undefeated in 2 centuries of expansion. Then he looked at Earth. One planet, 7 billion paranoid, violent, creative, stubborn individuals who'd spent generations preparing for this exact moment. The mathematics were simple. His fleet could probably survive the initial barrage, could probably punch through the shields with enough sustained bombardment, could probably pacify the planet eventually. Probably. But the cost would be everything. And even if they won, even if they somehow conquered Earth, what then? Occupation of 7 billion people who built fusion reactors under cities and hid missile silos in their neighborhoods, who'd spent 70 years planning resistance strategies. Chancellor Drex wants results, Varath said quietly. Let's give him some. He opened a channel. Direct to Earth. President Val, this is Commander Varath. I'm prepared to discuss terms. The response took exactly 3 seconds. Terms. Commander, there's only one term. Leave. Now. Never come back. The Council won't accept that. Then the Council has a problem, doesn't it? Valala's voice hardened. But here's the thing, Commander. I don't think you're a fool. I think you're a professional who just realized that conquering Earth would cost more than it's worth. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take your fleet and leave our solar system. You're going to report to your council that Earth has defensive capabilities that make invasion impractical, and in exchange we won't demonstrate exactly how impractical. The Chancellor will send another fleet. Let him. We'll be ready. We're always ready. That's what you don't understand about humanity, Commander. We don't hope for peace. We prepare for war. Every single day. It's exhausting and expensive and probably neurotic, but it's also why you're having this conversation instead of landing troops. Vorev's tactical display showed both missile waves converging on his position. 31 minutes. Then 17. My career is over, he said simply. Better than being dead, Vael replied. Besides, look at it this way. You just saved 300 ships and thousands of lives by making the smart choice. That takes more courage than blind aggression. The Council won't see it that way. The Council isn't staring down 2,000 missiles and wondering if their shields will hold.
Sure. Make the call, Commander.
17 minutes became 16. Became 15. Varath looked at his crew, at the young officers who trusted him to bring them home, at the veterans who'd seen enough war to recognize an unwinnable scenario. Fleet-wide transmission, he ordered. All ships prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. Coordinates for Dominion space. We're leaving. Sir, Crix's relief was palpable. The Chancellor can court-martial me when we get home. Varath opened the channel to Earth one last time. President Vile, we're withdrawing. But understand this. The Dominion doesn't forget. We don't forgive. You've made an enemy today. Velo's laugh was sharp. Commander, we've been enemies with ourselves for millennia. You think one more scares us? Go home. Tell your council what you learned here. Tell them Earth isn't worth it. Tell them humans are crazy enough to nuke their own planet just to spite invaders. Tell them whatever you need to. Just don't come back. The hyperspace engines hummed to life across the fleet. 300 ships, turning away from an impossible victory. 5 seconds to jump, the navigation officer reported. Varath took one last look at Earth, at that blue marble that had defeated the Dominion without firing a shot. Execute. The stars stretched. The fleet vanished. Behind them 2,000 missiles reached empty space and detonated harmlessly. A fireworks display nobody was there to see. On Earth, in that massive chamber, 7 billion humans watched the Dominion fleet disappear. Watched the threat vanish. Then they cheered. Catherine Vale allowed herself exactly 10 seconds of relief before turning to her command staff. Stand down to yellow alert. Keep the shields up. Keep the sensors hot. They might come back, and if they do, General Park asked. Vale smiled. Tired. Fierce. Human. Then we show them what we've really been building, because the shields, the missiles, the fighters. That was just the first line of defense. The real preparations, the truly terrifying contingencies humanity had developed, those were still hidden, still waiting, just in case. Get me the engineering teams, Vale ordered. We have work to do. If the Dominion sends another fleet, I want weapons they've never imagined. I want defenses that make today look like a warm-up. I want them to tell stories about Earth for the next 1,000 years. What kind of stories? Someone asked. Valariel's smile widened. The kind that keep them up at night. The kind that make them think twice before threatening another species. We're going to become the galaxy's nightmare, people. Not because we want to, but because we have to. Because if there's one thing humans excel at, it's making sure nobody ever underestimates us twice. The room erupted in grim determination. Orders flew, plans activated. Humanity, having tasted victory, immediately began preparing for the next war. Because that's what humans did. That's what they'd always done. Plan, prepare, and pity anyone who forgot it. Varath's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the Dominion capital 3 days later. The debriefing took 6 hours. The court-martial took 6 minutes. But when Chancellor Drex demanded to know why Varath had retreated, the commander simply activated the tactical recordings and let them speak for themselves. The council watched in silence as Earth's defenses activated. Watched the missile swarms. Watched the shields. Watched their unstoppable fleet turn and run. When the recording ended, Drex spoke quietly. Recommendation, Commander, quarantine Earth's solar system. Varath replied. Mark it as hostile territory. Advise all Dominion vessels to avoid that region of space, and pray to whatever gods you believe in that humans never develop faster than light travel. You think they could threaten us? One planet against an empire spanning thousands of worlds? Boris met the Chancellor's gaze steadily. Chancellor, they had 70 years to prepare for us. Imagine what they'll build with centuries. Imagine what they'll create when they're not just defending one planet but capable of taking the fight to us. We've conquered 63 civilizations. Earth would be our first defeat, our only defeat, and I, for one, am not interested in finding out what happens when humanity decides to expand beyond their solar system. The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Drex nodded slowly. Quarantine protocols approved. Earth is off limits. Spread the word. Any fleet that approaches that system does so against council orders. Varath saluted and turned to leave. Commander Drex called after him. One question. Do you think they were bluffing about their capabilities? Varath paused at the doorway, remembering Catherine Vale's voice, that absolute confidence, that complete lack of fear. No, Chancellor. I think they were showing restraint, and that terrifies me more than anything else. He left the chamber, left the council to their deliberations, and quietly submitted his retirement papers that evening. Some wars, he'd learned, weren't worth winning. Some species weren't meant to be conquered, and some planets were best left alone. Earth remained blue, beautiful, dangerous, waiting, always waiting, just in case.
Vorat becoming voice of caution, warning his civilization about underestimating the humanity. Please stay tuned to my channel